what the birds in the air block looks like, and it's a 3.5-inch birds in the air. So they are baby birds.
Tiny birds.
So I want you to think about how you would normally, traditionally, piece this baby bird block, right? Baby birds in the air. So I've got it kind of broken out here. So the first thing you do is take these two little triangles and you would make a half square triangle, right? And then you would take another little tiny triangle and put him on that side, and another and put him on that side, and then this final triangle, and that would create your birds in the air block.
So for the whole border, you're doing triangles for days.
Right. And at some point you question your life choices, right? Because there's a lot of little tiny triangles.
Sure.
Okay, so one of the things that I was able with my friend Melanie to figure out is how to piece this together 4 at a time. So I'm going to put these together, and I just want you to see. So it's like you create a square and a square and a square and a square.
Right.
And then you cut them, and you got 4 at a time birds in the air.
Neat.
So excited to show you this.
How long did this take?
It took a little while. It really did. It was a lot of graph paper and math and trial and error, and then a lot of jumping up and down at the end.
Right. It must just be so fun to be a part of those meetings.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the center square, and for the baby bird it's kind of a weird number. It's a 3 3/8, but that's the only weird number in the whole shebang. Okay. So don't get too nervous about it. So I'm gonna place the first round of white on, and I just want to talk about how to figure out where to place that white so that it's properly centered on that center square. And so one of the things to think about is how to, I'm just going to finger press, and I'm going to press this one together. And I'm going to press it right sides together. I'm just going to finger press it north-south, and then I would finger press it east-west as well. And I want you to think about when you press that, what's happening to the direction of that press.
Right.
So it makes like a little valley, right? So I want to mimic that when I put my triangle on so that the two valleys kind of nest together.
Sure.
So I'm going to fold these wrong sides together, and that will finger press, and that will allow those two little valleys to nest together. So I'm going to let you go ahead and sew that round on.
Easy piecing.
So just a 1/4-inch seam, and 1/4-inch foot will be your friend here.
Right. Lots of 1/4-inch foot here on this quilt.
And of course I did this assembly line, you know, you do a whole mess of them because there's a good number of baby birds in here. But I'm telling you, once you get this whole thing figured out where you can, all right, and then this one will go there, where you can do these 4 at a time, suddenly you see all these birds in the air, traditional, very traditional quilts, and you're like, yeah, no, I got it. Let's do it.
Well, I like how you kind of explained this to me earlier about when you're pressing them in that direction, you're nesting the valleys together instead of having tents coming together.
Yeah, so if you press it the other way, then they would kind of be apart from each other. They don't sit down together.
Nest as well. And then you feel like you need a pin, but this is simple.
Right. Yeah, so I'm just going to press those out, and then we'll put the next round on, and a nice hot iron, get it nice, and those seams pressed out will be helpful to you.
And it's so much more traditional to press toward the dark, but when you're doing a square and a square like this, you're really pressing out, right? So in this case, it's the light, but that's okay.
Yeah. All right, so I've already finger pressed those, so that one's ready to go. Yeah, you know, there's, you think about all of the choices you have with piecing, and you tend to forget you have just as many choices when it comes to pressing.
Right.
And some of those choices will influence how easy the piecing goes.
Absolutely. Strategic pressing.
Yes. All right, so one more round, and again, I've already finger pressed that, so I'm going to hand that to you.
Okay.
And that will be that first round around the center of your baby bird block.
I like it. It's so much fun every season to see what is going to be the little trick that you come up with, where you make magic happen.
I tell you, my friend Melanie and I, we sit around the table, and it's almost like a contest. It's like I want to figure out an easier way to make X, Y, or Z, and then we kind of challenge each other. Okay, so there's our first round, and now we're going to trim it. And here's the place that you don't panic, okay? Because this is very different than what you're used to. I'm going to trim right up to that point. So think about it. If I were to piece this, the next round is going to have a blunted tip, a blunted point.
Because typically we're 1/4 of an inch away from that point, which ensures your accurate point and the seam allowance.
Right.
But now we're just cutting it off altogether.
Right. And so the key is, and I didn't get that one very well, the key is to not panic.
Right.
Because you look at this and you think, oh, I've done something wrong, because normally you have to build in those 1/4 inch seams.
Just kind of stepping outside of the box for a magic trick.
Right. And the reason you want those blunted, you'll see here in a second when we go to put the next round on, is that's going to give you your 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so the next round is going to be our blue.
Okay.
Now notice we already have a center
Right.
for that one, so we don't have to worry about that one, and it's kind of making a valley because of those 2 side wings. So when we put this on, we want to go wrong sides together with that, finger press it, and then just line up the valley with that point. And so we're going to put 4 of these blue triangles all the way around. And so this round of blue, it's a 4-inch square. You just cut it on the diagonal, and then that's the next round that goes all the way around. And so I've got that. We'll lay it out here.
Yeah. And let's just
Right.
kind of point out that we have lost that tip.
Right. Don't panic.
It's okay.
Don't panic. So what we would put that side on, and that side on, right? And that is going to give me, got one here already done. That is going to give me this one.
Nice. And we're always working in opposite sides, adding 2, pressing, adding the other 2, and that makes sure you don't get any funky little seams.
Right, no funky seams allowed. Okay, so now we have to trim this one, and this time we do want to keep the points.
Okay.
This time it is important. So when we go to do this round, we are going to do a trim it to 5.5, and so I'm just going to lay my 1/4 inch seam here on that point, and then I'm going to align this interior line. Sometimes you want to use an exterior line of your ruler. Sometimes an interior line helps. You know, all the lines all the time.
Yeah, because we can't work off of the outside of it because we haven't trimmed the rest of the outside of the block. So you're looking for something that's really nice and square and straight on the inside of the block.
Something you can trust.
Right.
All right, so those 2, and then I'm going to rotate this. And if you have a spinning mat, you could use that. I generally either move my person, my body, or rotate the fabric. So these last 2, and that will give me the base of the baby block. And now I just have those outside white triangles to go. So you'll notice here I've got that 1/4 inch seam now built in, and I'm going to fold this white.
Okay.
And place it, line it up with that. All right, you want to do that one?
Sure.
So you see the pattern here, right? We're putting the triangles around and around, and then another round and around, and another round and around.
And it looks like a more sort of complicated block, but it could not be easier to piece.
Right. And those whites are, those are 4.5 inch. They're just cut on the diagonal, and we would go all the way around.
Okay.
All right. So we
Got
press
it.
that, and then we put the other side on, and press it out, and go all the way around just like we did before. Okay. So through the magic of television, I already have that done. And so now we're ready to actually trim this and get our 4 baby birds.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a longer ruler. And what I want to do is I want to put my 1/4 inch, you know, this is a 1/2 inch, so I want to make sure my ruler's going in the dead center of that blunted tip, and I want to make sure it's going through that point as well. So lining this up, again, all the lines all the time are going to help me get my little birds. So that looks pretty good there. Oh, that one needs to be, okay. So north-south, beautiful. And then we would do the east-west, and I wouldn't do these 4, I would do these individually. Again, a 1/4 of an inch away on that blunted tip, and line up your bottom edge. And that's going to give me kind of ratty baby birds. Baby birds that just fell out of the nest and need a little help.
As you say, you need a haircut.
They need a little help. So we need to trim these down to 3.5. I don't need to trim this side. I'm only going to trim away this white side. So I've got a ruler with a strong diagonal on it and a strong diagonal this way, so that I can line up the diagonal going through that point, line up that on that diagonal, and then I can trim all of my little baby birds down, and I have a 3-inch finished, 3.5 inch unfinished baby bird 4 at a time.
4 at a time.
Yeah.
That's really clever. I love it.
All right, so then I was like, well,